Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to an emergency edition of the Broken Tables podcast. This is episode number 21. I am your host, Jeffrey Vegas, here with our co-host, Rome, coming to you with an emergency code watch. Cody has arrived in the WWE in full Codelander character, just like AEW, same jacket and everything. Rome, go ahead and take it away, man.
Yeah, we saw him on WrestleMania. He came out, he has all the gear, the character, the whole
Song.
9 yards. Which he owned all that stuff. So
Yeah.
he has the right to use that, which is smart on his part. This isn't going to be like a indictment of Cody Rhodes, the wrestler. And I think it's important to say that, like, my issues at this point are not, before this year, I thought very highly of Cody Rhodes. And in terms of his performances, still feel the same way about him. But I will say that this is without a doubt probably the biggest black mark you could ever put on your legacy, in my opinion. Cody Rhodes was important to me as a wrestling fan because he kind of represented how I felt as a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
I thought he was super relatable, man. This was a guy who friggin' loved pro wrestling. He had the lineage, the legacy of his father, of his brother, and he did what anyone in his position would do back in the day. He joined the WWE and started wrestling for them because if you're back then, if you were going to go anywhere, if you were going to make it, you wanted to go to WWE.
Yep.
So he started there and put the time in, and he busted his ass. He worked hard. He was better than he was booked. Very severely misbooked, and got stuck with Stardust, and eventually he was let go from the company. Cody showed his disdain, the disdain that he had for the WWE.
Yeah.
And he wore it on his sleeve everywhere he went. From, the first AEW show of him being the throne breaker to, just talking about it and like mention, and just, it was all very relevant, to me as a wrestling fan. And it was something that I related to. And, when you relate to these professional wrestlers or sports entertainers, whatever company they're coming from, at the end of the day, if you relate to that person's just going to mean more to you. They did their job.
Yeah.
And for me, Cody Rhodes did that job. He was the face of the revolution. I know for some people it was the Bucks, for some people it was Kenny, for some people it was Jericho. For me it was Cody. Cody was the guy that I looked at and, just vibed with him a lot. But sitting here at this moment, he kind of exposed himself as probably the biggest hypocrite in the history of professional wrestling. This was a guy. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, it's it's hard for me to use that word hypocrite because I really don't like that word, but yeah, that's almost the only word you can use at the moment.
Yeah, if there's a more apt word, please let me know. But this was a guy who, at the end of the day, spent years talking about the revolution and how he can never go back to WWE, and
Yep.
it wasn't about main eventing WrestleMania. It was about making a statement and proving your own and building something to be something special, which he did. And so again, this is not a indictment where all of a sudden I'm not going to sit here on this podcast and say Cody Rhodes is trash. I'm not going to say that he's a garbage wrestler or that he didn't get me invested or that I own like 5 Cody Rhodes t-shirts, because I do. This is all factual things, or I guess it is an opinion because that's how I feel.
I
But
have no less than 3 of his action figures behind me right now.
Yeah. Um, we met Cody Rhodes. We went to the Philadelphia show, and that was
Yeah.
probably like one of the most like awesome moments as a wrestling fan for me because I was just so grateful, and getting to meet him and just say thank you for what he did. And again, it's again, I'm not shitting on him. He's great. I'm sure that match with Seth was excellent. I'm sure it was. I just wanted to see him actually show up there before I committed to the my opinions.
Yeah.
Once I saw him, I turned it off because again, I've said it once, I've said it a million times. I'm not supporting that company um, for a lot of reasons, and I don't care who you get in that company. I'm not. I'm not in. So I'm out on Cody Rhodes, and if that's where Cody ends his career, I guess I'm just not going to see the end of Cody Rhodes' career, which you know, his legacy is already extremely tarnished in my eyes. So what can you do? This was a guy though that constantly hogged the limelight in AEW.
Yeah.
He always had the best entrance. He was the only guy that got to enter from the middle because he wasn't a face, but he wasn't a heel. He was this magical tweener. He was the only one that was like that. He always had the most pyro, always had the most attention on him. He probably would have been the AEW World Champion if he didn't give himself that
That
stupid stipulation
stupid
that ended up
stipulation. Yeah.
because that was Cody think I don't know what. I guess he thought that he was above the world title, and at the end of the day, he wasn't because without the world title being a thing for him, he kind of just drifted away to obscurity for his last like year or so at AEW.
Yeah.
Um, apart from the Malachi Black feud, um, and eventually, AEW fans, some of them, they saw through it and they turned on him for it. And
Yeah.
I was sitting there saying, I will never turn on Cody Rhodes, and I won't. This is not me booing Cody Rhodes, the wrestler. It's just not to be cliche, but it's like I'm not mad. I'm just extremely disappointed.
Exactly. That was the same words I was going to use. Um, so what I would say here is I'm happy for him if he's happy, right? And
Sure.
I'm going to do the whole let it play out thing. Now, I'm more than likely not going to watch like you know what I'm saying? But I
Mm.
hope he does his dad proud because it's obvious that he's coming back for some reason that has to do with his dad. There was a lot of references to his dad in the match. Um, you said you didn't watch it, so there was also a tease of a pedigree again, like he does in AEW. And then
Mm-hmm.
he actually took a pedigree from Seth. And then he wound up hitting Seth with, I believe by the end of this, he hit him with 4 crossroads, including a bionic elbow mixed in to the 4 crossroads.
I'm guessing Cody won.
Yeah, Cody did win the match after the 4th crossroads. After he hit him with the bionic elbow and then a 4th crossroads, and yeah, Seth looked like he was dead.
Yeah. And you kind of said let it play out, and of course, I'm going to.
Yeah,
Um, maybe this is some sort of story where they want Cody to be this super mega heel when he comes back, and maybe he and Tony Khan have an agreement where he's like, "Hey, I'm just gonna go work the Fed for a year or two, sign like a year contract, 2-year contract, wrap up, come back." Maybe that's the plan,
yeah,
and maybe I'm just a stupid mark that bought into it all. And
yep,
if that's the case, it's the greatest work in the history of professional wrestling.
yeah,
However, sitting here April 2nd, 2022 at 10:40 at night, um, it's, where we have to see where it goes.
yeah,
Um, so again, I'm going to speak in the now and assume that, what we've heard is true, that his contract expired. He thought he was worth more than 3 million a year. Tony Khan said no, and Cody left. And Cody cemented that the money was the most important thing to him. Because you're talking you're talking about his legacy. I think that the WWE has done nothing but shit on the Rhodes name for decades. I
yeah,
mean, you look at it like Dusty Rhodes, like was such a prominent pro wrestler in the NWA and on the indies back when that was not in indies, I'm sorry, the territories back when that was a thing. Comes WWE and what do? They fucking throw yellow polka dots on him.
yeah. And
So and then
I
his son Dustin, you look at Dustin Rhodes, who's it's very similar. Excellent pro wrestler, doing all this great stuff. He comes to WWE and they give him fucking gold dust, which, to Dustin Rhodes' credit, he made that shit work to the point where I like gold dust.
Yeah.
But you can't sit here and be like, that wasn't like, and then they do the same thing to Cody when they give him Stardust. Like, the McMahon family has done nothing but shit on the Rhodes name,
Mm-hmm.
despite the fact that the Rhodes have made every single thing fucking work that the McMahons threw at them.
Yep.
And again, that's a testament to the Rhodes. But
I've even seen Cody say it. He's like, he's like, they made our family like the enemy. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I don't know how you can say those words. I don't know how those words could come out of your mouth one day and then return there any other time. But
that's what I'm saying. I mean, like, I think at the end of the day, he lost his grip on AEW. CM Punk and Bryan Danielson, they got brought in, they got signed, and they came back. And at that point, like, they didn't need Cody. I mean, obviously, Cody being part of that roster just made it even more stacked. And I'm not even going to sit here and say that Cody isn't in the same league as Punk and Bryan, because I think, I do still think very highly of him in terms of his in-ring work, his promo work. I mean, Cody is one of those guys who there's like maybe like five guys that like can cut a promo, and I'm just on every word. I'm just hanging off every word. And
yeah,
Cody is one of those guys. Um,
man,
it's like it's Cody, it's Punk, it's Wyndham, I mean, those are the big three. But I mean, like, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, he took his ball. He ran back to a company that completely made a mockery of his family's name. A company that made it clear that they don't value the segment of viewer that Cody pandered to, because that's the thing. Cody made it clear, and he pandered, and like the type of fan that I am, the the former WWE fan who got burnt out and just got the love of pro wrestling beaten out of him because of that company. Cody took those fans, that segment of fan, and like they became his guys. Like I was a Cody Rhodes guy.
yeah.
Um, and it's a betrayal. And I don't want to sound like some over dramatic mark on the internet. Like, I get it, I understand parts of this sound like that. But at the end of the day, it's how I feel. um
Yeah.
I love pro wrestling very strongly, so this type of shit, like, it matters to me. You know what I mean? We've talked about sitting down and watching Dynamite and Rampage, and like, look forward to that shit. So it's
Yep.
important. But I mean, and I also get the argument that, like, well, everybody ends up back in the WWE eventually. Bret Hart and Ultimate Warrior ended up back in the WWE. It's like, I get that,
Yeah. They wind up
but
throwing that money at you eventually, I guess.
the difference is that Bret and Ultimate Warrior, like, yeah, they hated Vince and they hated WWE and they were bitter about it all, but they didn't fucking start a company to go up against WWE. And like, Cody's the guy that, like, when, like, he was quoted as saying, like, he would say often when AEW started, like, I can never go back there. Like, I've burned every single bridge.
Yeah.
And if there was anyone that it related to, it was Cody. Like, more than anyone. Like, yes, like, that's like, if there was anyone that wasn't going to go back, it would have been Cody Rhodes. But apparently not.
Man, I just realized I'm more than likely going to be watching at least a few segments of Raw now. God damn it.
Oh no, I'm that more power to you. Like, look, like, I still, like, even though I don't like that product, I hate the product, and to be quite honest, I don't understand why people who like the product like the product. Watch what you watch. Watch what you enjoy.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely. If you enjoy that shit, more power to you. I'm not gonna judge you. But I mean, like I said, this is kind of where my fandom of Cody Rhodes ends. I
That's
mean,
where you draw the line in the sand, huh?
yeah, I mean, I've made it clear. I mean, like, I
Yep.
wasn't watching the product, and Bray Wyatt was still in the company. I mean, for me, it's just like, I don't know what the WWE could do that would get me back in there. I mean, I have Peacock because I have Comcast, so like, I didn't pay for WrestleMania. I put it on because I wanted to see if it was really going to be Cody or not.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw what I needed, I turned it off, and that's kind of it. I mean,
Well,
what is the point of it? Like,
let's
what's the point
see.
of it? So Cody's going to go in there and be second fiddle to Roman Reigns, but he'll get paid. So I mean,
Yeah,
okay, and by the way, like this is completely an off tangent, but at your biggest fucking show of the year, why do you have commercial breaks on your biggest pay per view of the year?
because you're on
What was that
Peacock
shit?
and nobody has to pay for it, so you need commercials now.
People still pay for it because
Well,
you
yeah,
pay for the Peacock subscription, and then
I don't.
NBC/Comcast floats the cash back to the Fed. Like that's how it works.
Yeah.
Like you don't need to have fucking commercials, and not even like an ad. They were like 2-minute commercials between each match.
Yeah, they were real commercials. Like I was watching it on TV. It was like an episode of SmackDown. Remember I texted you that? I was like, this feels like I'm watching
Yeah,
SmackDown. It felt like SmackDown in a big arena.
yeah. I mean,
But I've been wanting to throw this at you guys for a while now. I've been holding this until I actually saw him here. So Tony Khan essentially told Cody, I'm not paying you a lot, so see ya. What if that's because he needs to pay someone else? And we both have been waiting for Mr. Wyndham Rotunda for quite a while now. I'm actually going to be glass half full on this one, and I'm going to say that I think this gives him the opportunity to pay Wyndham. So, if we get that in the end, I will be perfectly okay with this. I don't miss Cody away from AEW. I just wish he wasn't in the E. That's all,
yeah. I mean, absolutely. Like, and that's my thing. Like, if it wasn't working with AEW, because again, I understand that like I'm an AEW guy. I get it. But if there was an issue where Cody ended up like in New Japan or in Impact or in the NWA or just kind of doing what like Matt Cardona does and like is just the king of the indies, like cool. Like this isn't an you're against AEW thing. It's a you went back to WWE thing.
Yeah.
Um and like again, like I understand that some people they'll stomach through that product. Like that was me like 8 years ago or like 6 years ago, where I would watch 20 minutes of Raw over the course of the 3 hours. I'd watch about 20 minutes of it. I'm not at that point anymore. I'm at the point where there's alternatives out there that I value, and that there's also a place I can watch wrestling where I don't feel my intelligence is insulted. Um, that even though they don't always get it right, they at least make an effort.
Yeah.
Um, so at the
All
end of the
right.
day, I think AEW is going to obviously continue to live on. This isn't the end of the world. This isn't doomsday. I'm not sitting here
No.
panicking or freaking out. I think actually AEW's been better since Cody's been gone, to be honest. I mean, we do the weekly review every week, and like
Er,
there hasn't been a bad Dynamite since Cody left in February or March or
yeah.
January, whatever it was.
And tell me this much: if Cody Rhodes had never left WWE and he appeared randomly at WrestleMania, would he have been this big of a star? Even close? No. So.
No, but that's something that also on a personal level kind of really makes me dislike him more. Like I honestly at this again sitting here April 2nd, 10:49 at this point at night,
Yeah.
um, makes me feel like were we just used as a stepping stone? Like was that your goal the whole time? Was like I'm gonna raise my stock and I'm gonna go out there into the world and make a name for myself on the indies and start AEW and become this huge guy and get network TV shows on TNT, and like am I gonna do all this to go back to WWE because and use that as a bargaining chip, because that's what it feels like. I mean
Yeah.
that's at this point. I mean again, it's a huge, like it's not even a black mark on his reputation. It's like just tear his reputation in half, because it's like you just made it clear that you're just like every other guy in WWE where it's like the money's great.
Yeah.
Like, oh, Kevin Owens resigned. Kevin, why'd you resign? Oh, the money's great.
Yeah. And then
Brock,
meanwhile,
oh,
all the
Brock Lesnar comes back year after
now the
year.
E
Oh, the money's
drones have
great.
all this ammunition, which God is going to be so annoying. And they're just gonna be like, welcome back to the good guys. And it's like, you don't even care that he talks so much shit on your, like, whatever.
Well, because they're drones,
Yeah.
like there's no criticism. I was on Twitter earlier, and it's someone that we follow, Melissa. She was like, she made she had like an opinion about the Fed, and like apparently like a bunch of Fed fans attacked her,
Oh
and I was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah, because you commented on it, so that's why I saw it, and it was like that's just what they do. Like God forbid you give the little like you give a little bit of criticism to your product, right? Like God forbid, like it's it's laughable.
Yep.
So
And dude,
yeah,
I have to mention this in the pre-show when they were showing the promo for the New Day match. They showed Big E breaking his neck. They showed the whole thing on the pre-show. What in God's name made you think that you needed to show that to anybody ever again?
yeah. Well,
I'm,
that's just what they do, man. And I hope that the money's worth it for Cody. I mean, again, it's great money. I mean, I can't sit here and tell you I wouldn't take the money if I was in that position, but I mean, I don't know because I'm not in that position. I mean, for all I know, maybe I would sell out too. So I mean, who knows?
listen,
But at the end of the day, I mean,
yeah,
he just the hypocrisy. The
yeah.
hypocrisy is very strong with this one.
And like I said, I think it comes down to something with his father. I think he wants to prove something to himself or someone else in the family or something like that. And I think he's willing to, be a hypocrite in order to do that. So if he's going to make his dad proud or whoever proud, go for it. But just probably not for me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not for me. Wonder what the end game is here. I mean, do you think that they let Cody go for the championship, and do you think he wins the champ? Like, I see Cody Rhodes being the Intercontinental Champion in a few months. That's what I
No,
see.
I actually see, so what I see happening here is Roman and Brock are going to unify this title. It's going to be called the WWE World Heavyweight Universal Championship, I believe.
Oh my fucking god! Really?
Yeah. But they already said that there has to be two championships for the two brands. So I don't know if they're going to create another new title or if they're just going to be like, here's the WWE title still or something stupid. But there's going to be another belt on Raw compared to SmackDown. And,
This is just the dumbest shit. This
and
is just
yeah.
so stupid.
And we know Brock's going to go away after this match. Well, I don't know, say we know that, but it would make
You
sense
don't
for
need
Brock to go away for a while after this if he loses. And I would imagine that Cody gets put into that slot immediately.
Yeah, I mean, again, what happens to him in WWE is completely irrelevant to me. You know, I couldn't care less, and I kind of won't have much sympathy for him if the booking goes bad, which it's the WWE. It's probably will. I mean, maybe he'll get like a win over Roman, maybe, but like at the end of the
Yeah.
day, if we've seen WWE do anything in its history, it's that it always shits on everyone else once they've won.
Yep.
Um, like you look at WCW, WWE bought WCW, and what happened to WCW? It became a joke. It became a laughing stock. It became worthless. Even up to the point where they had Triple H beat Sting at WrestleMania, which again, huge Triple H guy, and that's like Sting should have beat Triple H at that WrestleMania, but
100%.
instead they made it clear that Triple H and DX was better than Sting and the NWO. They were
Yep.
like, no, our product was always better and was always the dominant product.
Yeah.
Because leading up to that match, they made it very clear that it was the WWE guy versus the WCW guy.
Yeah.
And then you watch that match, you could see where their thought process was. Same thing with ECW. ECW doesn't have the money to continue. It goes out of business. WWE buys the assets. What happens? They do one night stand once or twice, and those shows were excellent. But then after
Yep.
that, it became a joke.
They
It
bled it
became a laughing
dry.
stock.
They bled it dry, and as soon as there was nothing left for it to give, they just trashed it. Yep.
Exactly, and that's what they do. That's what they do with every single person, every single company, every single IP that they acquire, that they get.
Yeah.
They take it and they bleed it dry, and then they throw it away like it's nothing.
Yep.
Uh, and at the end of the day, that's something that Cody Rhodes is okay with. Um, I'm sure he'll get his wife on TV too, because Lord
Yeah.
knows which I mean,
They're
it
gonna
is
send,
what it is.
yeah, they're gonna send her ass to the fucking performance center first, dude.
Oh, they're not gonna send her to the performance center, please. Cody made it. Cody got Brandy a made up fucking job title in AEW and tried to get her on TV, but just didn't click like 3 times. They tried like 3 different gimmicks with her, and it just never worked. So they're like,
Okay,
we
so
can't force it.
Mandy Rose is now the retaining NXT Women's Champion. I see Brandy showing up in NXT and going after that belt. She's
Yeah,
not good
well,
enough for this main roster. Half the girls on the main roster aren't good enough for this main roster.
yeah. So
But yeah, that let's end it on that note there. Like I said, I hope he makes his dad proud, but not for me.
yeah, I mean, I just saw a tweet that said, so Vince traded Adam Cole, Red Dragon, Samoa Joe, Bryan Danielson, Ruby Soho, Keith Lee, William Regal, FTR, and Malachi Black for Cody Rhodes.
I'll take that trade any day.
That's a great trade for us.
Yeah. That's like trading Tom Brady for half your team.
No, I don't know about that.
I wouldn't say Tom Brady. He's the GOAT. It's like trading Carson Wentz for half your team.
Yeah.
All right, man. You got anything to add to the end of this one here?
Best of luck to Cody. Hope the money's worth it. I'm going to be watching great pro wrestling and enjoying my time as a wrestling fan as opposed to just being upset all the time. So, yeah, cool. I'm glad that Code Watch is over and we can move on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, I'm in on that one too. All right, man. Well, I'm gonna go back to watching the rest of these matches here, I guess, and
I'm gonna go do something else.
Enjoy the rest of your night if you can.
Oh no, I'm again. There's no bitter. It's just I'm just kind of matter of fact factual about it. It's like that's how I see Cody now. I mean, it's not like the end of the world. It's just the dude's legacy means a hell of a lot less than it meant yesterday. So, more power to him. I'm sure the money's worth it. I'm definitely sure the money's worth it. It's just, fuck off. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Like for me, and like I understand, like for the Fed fans, it's the opposite. For me, Cody Rhodes has officially shifted into irrelevance. I couldn't care less what Cody Rhodes does. Yeah. That's why I was like, okay, I saw that Cody Rhodes is in WWE now. Turning this off. That's the only reason that I had WrestleMania on was I wanted to see if it was going to be him, so I could know with my own 2 eyes, and they did. And yeah, I don't really care. It is what it is.
All right. Well, that'll do it for this episode. Remember, everybody, you can catch us live on YouTube every Wednesday night and Friday night after AEW Dynamite and Rampage. You can catch us on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcast, and Anchor. Rome, thanks for joining us on this emergency episode 21.
Absolutely.
Right on, man. You have a good night, and everybody, peace.